Hey there, I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And this is Love to Hate. And today we're previewing another Kickstarter. We're taking a look at the Gemshine Pylons. This is from Game Elemental. Right now we have a prototype, obviously. This is not the final product. Everything you're going to see in this video is all prototype. The final artwork, rules, components, they're all going to look different when the final product is released. As I said, this is running on Kickstarter, so make sure to check out the Kickstarter campaign by visiting the link in the description of this video down below. Right now we're going to go over a rules overview and then we'll be back with our thoughts. Alright, so this is the Gemshine Pylons on the table here, and I do want to remind you that everything you see here is prototype. It is subject to change when the final product comes out. In this game, players are going to try and get the most points to determine who the winner is, and you're going to get those points in two primary fashions. One, either through the decoration cards that you see here, giving the points that are listed in the top left corner, or by assigning the gems that you have onto either your pylons or the decorations that you gain throughout the course of the game. We'll come back to that here in a minute. On a player's turn, you're going to be taking one of three actions, either taking a card from the market, taking a free pylon from the deck, or you can gather up all the gems that might be in the market line, including the one that is always here on this card at the end of the line. So in more detail, taking a card from the market is going to look like this. You will pay the cost that is listed on the top of the card that you want to take, and primarily that's going to come in one of two fashions. You either are going to pay the listed amount of gems in order to take this card. So this one happens to be one, but there are some cards in the deck that require you to pay 2 gems. And it can be any color gem, doesn't matter. And so if I wanted to take this card, I would have to pay any one of my gems and put it in the spot that that card came from. So for instance, I might take this white one and put it right there. And this card would go into hand. Whereas this card requires me to discard a pylon. And so these are pylons. They look like statues. In fact, those are going to be on the back of all the cards in the game. And so I would have to discard this to the discard pile in order to take this card. That's the cost. So let's go over the different actions on the cards. This particular action here shows you how many gems and of what color you can take from your reserve and place on any open slots that you might have on any pylons. Again, that's what these look like, or the decorations that you've already acquired. You can see that there is a slot to put 1 gem on that decoration. So if I took this card, I could take up to 3 red gems and put them on pylons or decorations. And remember, in order to score points for your gems, they have to be slotted in either pylons or decorations. So that's why you would want to take that action. This action specifically gives you 2 pylons from the deck. And so in order to be able to slot gems, you've got to have a place to put them. So if I took that card, I would get 2 more pylons right here in front of me. This icon is the same as that. It's just that you get 2 red gems instead of 3. This one right here shows you that you are able to take a decoration that is on the top of one of the 4 decks to slot on one of your pylons. Now that pylon has to have a gem in it. That's the first requirement. And the second requirement, in order to get these decorations, you have to pay the cost that is shown on the cards. So for instance, this decoration right here requires 2 white representatives. Whereas this one right here requires 3 blue representatives, 4 red representatives, and 5 blue representatives. Now there's going to be a red, white, and blue for each of these 4 decks, but they are shuffled up at random, so you're not exactly sure what's going to come after the one on top. In order to gain any of these cards, you have to pay those representatives from the cards in your hand. So for instance, let's say I had this card in hand because I took it earlier by paying a gem, and I took this action. This card stays in my hand so that I can later on pay the representative costs in order to get that decoration. So I have 2 white ones on this one. I could afford that one if I took this action right here, and I would simply discard this card to the discard pile to then take this decoration. And I would be able to see what comes next on this pile. So blue would be the next one. And this decoration gives me 2 points at the end of the game, and I would slot it on my pylon like so, and you can see the artwork matches up there. And again, you have to have a gem slotted in that pylon before you can put a decoration on it. And later on throughout the course of the game, I could put another gem in that decoration, excuse me. That just gives me an extra spot to slot a gem. Finally, the last icon you're going to see on these cards is this one right here, which tells you how many gems you can draw at random from the bag. And so all the gems are kept in this bag here. And some cards have no actions on them, but they do give you quite a few representatives. This is going to continue throughout the course of the game. Again, either taking a card from the market, taking a free pylon from the deck, or gathering any gems that players have paid to the market along with the one gem that is always on this card. And when you do that, when you take all the gems that might be in the market row, you clear the market and you supply with more cards from the deck. And when this deck runs out, depending on how many players you are playing with in a solo or two-player game, when the deck runs out, as soon as it gets back to the first player, the game is over. If you are playing with 3 or 4 players, you're going to play through this deck twice, and then when it gets back to the first player, the game will be over. At which point, you are then going to show everyone the cards that you have left over in your hand. And you're going to form 3 piles. You're going to form one for the red representatives, the blue representatives, and white representatives. And any cards that don't have representatives aren't going to matter. And what you're looking at is, combined with all the players at the table, which pile of representatives is the largest. And so let's pretend that this is the end here. I have 4 red representatives, 2 blue, and 1 white. That's going to determine how much gems are worth that are slotted on decorations or pylons, not the ones in your reserve. Those are worthless at this point. Whichever is the largest group of representatives, those colored gems are going to be worth 4 points each. Whichever is second is going to be worth 2 points, and whichever is the fewest is going to be worth only 1 point. So in this lineup right here, this blue one would be worth 2, this white one would be worth 1, and again, all the ones in my reserve are worth nothing. I count up those gems, I count up the points I got on my decorations. Whoever's the most is the winner, and that is how you play Gemshine Pylons. Now, there is a way to play this game with solo mode. There are cards here that allow you to play solo, and you can do this in varying degrees of difficulty. That's pretty cool. There are also cards to allow you to play this cooperatively, and so you have threats that are going to come up throughout the course of the game that you need to clear out. If too many threats are left on the board before you've cleared them out, then the players are going to lose. And you're going to compare your score to a chart at the end if you survive that tells you whether you win the game or if you need to try again. And that is pretty much what you find in the Gemshine Pylons. Let's go back up top where we're going to share our thoughts on this game. All right, so now we're back and we're going to share our thoughts on this game and maybe a little bit about what you can expect when you play the Gemshine Pylons for yourself. I'll go first and just tell you guys that I really enjoyed this game. I thought this was a fun experience, that there was lots of choices having to choose which of the cards in the market to take, which cards to discard in order to do those cards, and trying to build up the different little characters, little guys on those cards to get the decorations, placing the gems. I just thought it was fascinating. I thought the way the different components of the game worked in conjunction with one another was very interesting. I thought the choices were compelling. And I played the solo several times. I can tell you guys this is a very, very fascinating solo to play. It can also be a very challenging solo. You'll get your butt kicked 1 or 2 times. The cooperative play is in this game as well. That's definitely something worth trying out. This game is, I thought, very interesting and very fun. Sam, what were some of your thoughts about this game?
I had a little bit of a harder time. I think I just didn't quite understand the why. The theme is a little weak, a little light, and so it was hard for me to understand exactly what I was doing. So it took me about halfway through to really start to understand, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. This is my goal.
Yeah.
I'm not a big theme person, but at the same time, I need to know why I'm doing something. So it took me a little while, but it's not a difficult game, I would say. It's just the theme is light. And so it's not super clear what the characters are.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that. It's not the most intuitive game, and that's probably because the theme is like Sam is saying, pretty light. And just if you're going off the theme, it might be a little difficult to understand what you're trying to do, what the purpose is, which is almost why when I was explaining it to Sam, just trying to focus on get these gems, put them on those pylons, get the little men on the card so you can get the decorations. That's really what you're trying to do. Get those gems out, get those decorations, but try to hold on to some of those little guys on your cards so that you can swing the points to the gems that you want to get the most points.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting mechanic there, is choosing to use the little guys, but at the same time wanting to hold on to them so that you can get more points for your gems at the end of the game. But as what Sam is saying, that is the theme is a little light there. And so if you're somebody who struggles with more abstract games, light on theme games, this might not be the best one for you. But if you really enjoy good mechanics, good choices, and a game that works great in a solo mode, I think this one is fantastic. Sam, you mentioned that as you got into it, halfway through, the game started to make more sense to you. Is the rule set pretty straightforward and simple? Is it one that has a bit of a learning curve? How would you describe it?
I mean, it's not the most difficult game I've ever played by far, but it does require a little bit of a learning curve. And I'm not sure if that is because of the lighter theme. It's just a different game than I had played before.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. You got to read the rule book a time or two through to really kind of feel like you have a good handle on this game. I don't know that that's a knock against it at all. I think it makes the decisions weightier, and developing a strategy throughout the course of the game is something that you're going to have to do, and figuring that out is the fun in this game. I can tell you guys out there, I've played this several times, and I have the itch to want to keep playing it. I think it's one that is just compelling to me, really clicks with me. Again, as we've been saying, the theme is kind of light, but I think I can get over it. I think it's something that I really enjoy and come back to time and time again. Sam, is this one that you would play with a non-gamer?
I'm not sure. I definitely think this is a good game for gamers, and I think it's just going to depend on your audience as far as non-gamers. I think it's a good one to try because it is pretty quick, pretty easy to understand once you get into it. But just go into it knowing that this game may not be for everybody.
Now, I will say I think this is a good two-player game because the deck, you only go through that deck once, and it's a quicker experience. And so if you are playing with a non-gamer out there, I think the two-player player count is the right number to do that in. You get into the 4-player count, and then the game's going to go a little bit longer. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but you kind of want that quick get through to be able to help them understand the game and get the mechanics down. So that is the Gemshine Pylons. It is running on Kickstarter right now. Go ahead and check their campaign by clicking that link in the description of the video and back this game.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
All right, I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.